The aim of this presentation is to explain what will happen if a year group goes into self-isolation and is off school for 14 days. It's very similar to the presentation that pupils will receive in their registration periods, but we've added a little bit more detail just to give you an idea as staff of how it'll work for you. So what are we going to run through? Well, I just want to recap what we mean by self-isolation and when it will happen, and also discuss what we mean by this home learning timetable that students will switch to if their whole year group is isolating at home. So what do we mean by self-isolation? Well, that's when a student must stay at home for a specified period of time, and this will happen for one of three reasons. So the first reason is if they're awaiting a COVID test results because they've displayed symptoms. Typically, this should be only for 2 to 3 days, hopefully. The second reason is if they have tested positive for COVID or someone they live with has tested positive. In this case, they will have to stay at home for 14 days as an individual. The third reason, and what the main part of this presentation is about, is when a member of their year group has tested positive. In this case, the whole year group will stay at home for 14 days. So what work will we provide and how will the students learn whilst they're self-isolating at home? Well, if it's for the first reason and they're waiting for test results, then we're not going to set any specific work. That would be just like a normal absence, and pupils, we'd expect them to carry on with any homework tasks that we've set them. The second reason, if they're isolating individually at home for 14 days, then we'd advise them to follow their normal timetable as a guide to what work they should be doing each day, and then work on tasks that have been set within each subject's Google Classroom. Now, these tasks can either be specific to the class, such as if in geography they're working on their China project, or it could be a generic subject activity. The format of this work, it could include digital resources, a webinar perhaps, or a narrated PowerPoint, workbook activities or reading tasks. The pupils, particularly in subjects where they see their teachers quite a lot across a fortnight period, should be able to email and possibly chat to their teacher during this time to get some feedback. But this approach reflects current practice for students who are not at school for any short period of time. For example, in the past, if this was due to an exclusion or another reason. But it will be the subject teacher's responsibility for ensuring that the students know where they go to access this work. Now, the third reason, which is if a pupil is isolating as part of a full year group for 14 days, what will happen then is they will switch to what we're calling their home learning timetable. So what's their home learning timetable? Well, it will match their normal timetable, and lessons will take place at the same time as if the student was in school. But the key difference is there'll be 3 different types of lesson format. There'll be live lessons. Now that'll be a lesson that's held in Google Meet that'll be led by their class teacher. And that lesson will be interactive, which enables you as a teacher to ask them questions and for the students to ask you questions. The second type of lesson is a webinar. So this could be a video presentation. It's kind of a lecture that you've recorded, or you can broadcast live, where you'll explain a new topic. And again, within that, you should look for opportunities for the students to take notes and possibly answer some written questions. The third type of lesson is self-study, and during these periods, pupils will work on their own on tasks that they've been set by their teacher. And details of this work can be communicated to the students via Google Classroom. So there are some things to consider as a teacher for each of these lesson types. The first is if you are running a live lesson, you need to ensure that your students are aware of the lesson protocols and how it's going to work, and ensure that they know how to access their Google Meet via their Google Classroom. If you're running a webinar, again, you could deliver it live and perhaps use the chat functions if that's possible, or you can pre-record it and ensure it's broadcast at the scheduled time, or pupils can access it at the scheduled time. Now, a webinar may be more general. It may allow you to role model and explain a new topic, but it also gives you the opportunity to let the students explore wider learning opportunities. It could also be produced by a specific teacher for their class or produced centrally within the department. Self-study periods, during this time, the pupils will be working independently on their own. So staff should use these periods to start preparing material for webinars and live lessons as necessary. So just a bit of a background to what it looks like for each year group. In Key Stage 3, each form group will have their home learning timetable. In Key Stage 4, there's a different timetable for each half of the year group. And in Key Stage 5, there'll be a Year 12 home learning timetable and a Year 13 home learning timetable. Live lessons and webinars, what we've tried to do is schedule them such that a student should have no more than 3 live lessons or webinars in a particular day. There are a few cases where there might be 4, but we've tried to minimize that. So what's it look like? Well, this is how, imagine you're a 7 in 7H. This is how the distribution of live lessons, webinars, and self-study periods pan out. You'll also notice there's a registration period. What, in addition to the normal lessons, what we're seeing is students will have registration once per week. So on a this will take place on a Wednesday, and it will take place at the normal time and be just like a live lesson. The form teacher will set this up for their class in their form class, Google Classroom. Yeah, 7, 8, and 9's registration will start at the normal time of 12:35, and Year 10, 11 will begin at 12 o'clock. If we add in the self-study periods, that's what the timetable looks like to the students, and they will have a copy of this that they can stick in the back of their planners. But what does it look like for a teacher of 7H? Well, if you teach science to 7H, this is what the timetable looks like for you now. You've got 2 live lessons, 2 webinars, and then 2 self-study periods. And it's during these self-study periods where the children are working independently that you can prepare material for the live lessons and webinars. What will happen when the year group goes into self-isolation? Well, this home learning timetable will begin 24 hours after the group has begun to self-isolate. So if a year group goes into self-isolation on a Tuesday, the timetable will begin on the Thursday of the same week. Pupils will be sticking this timetable, as I've said, in the back of their planners. So just to give you an overview of the other year groups, and you get I'll be sending you a PDF of all the timetables so you can see how it maps out across the different year groups and your classes. Year 10, very similar, only now we've got the option blocks as well as the core subjects. Similarly for Year 11. Year 12, again, we've done it by option block. But one thing to note with Year 12 and 13 is some classes, and you will be aware of this, are taught out of option in order to make the timetable work. So if you look at week A, period 1, you might have a lesson with Year 12 during that period. That's an out of option lesson. But it will be your responsibility to ensure that the lesson you teach in option 1, it'll still go ahead, but it should match the appropriate live webinar self-study session that it would if it was on the rest of the timetable. Year 13, again, similar with the option blocks. Now, these 2 slides just give you an overview of the split of live lessons, webinars, and self-study periods across the different subjects. So as you can see, in Year 7 and 8, about 55% of their periods are teacher facing, increases a little as they go into Year 9. Live lessons and webinars take an even greater proportion in Year 10 and greater again in Year 11. We've gone for even more a greater proportion of live lessons in Year 11 because of the need. I'm sure you want to see your pupils more often. And Year 12, the split is larger again. And again, there's a reminder, if you teach that year group out of option in Year 12 or 13, then it's important that you communicate what happens to the students. So I hope that's helpful. I hope that gives you an idea for what it's going to look like. You will get a PDF of the timetable across the year groups, and as a teacher you need to look at that if one of your year groups goes into self-isolation, so you can then be aware of when the live lessons, webinars and self-study periods fall. If you've got any queries having watched this, please give me a shout or drop me an email, and hopefully I'll be able to answer them. Thank you for listening.